Oh my God. I cannot be happier. I cannot be happier. So this thing, this authentic hour, um, I've been running it for like a month and a half now, and it's the idea is to talk about TrueMe and us and support each other and psychology and all this stuff. And we used to do it with Jesse, but he moved to Costa Rica and life happened, and I was like, okay, I've got this space which was created, and I've been talking to myself for the last couple of weeks. And then earlier today, I was like, let's change it. Let's just turn it into this space for amazing, amazing, amazing females who are doing something extraordinary. And yeah, you agreed to be the very first one. So thank you, and thank you.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy. I think you're a really positive influence person, so I'm happy to be here. It's been a while since I gave any like online yeah like appearance like this, because I felt, yeah, like last 2 years I was thinking, okay, I just like do the deep work only plus live events, like live events, like in like out in real life only, not as many podcasts. But it's good to be back on, you know, live
Thank you.
video with whoever is willing to listen. Yeah, it's been a while ever since I last done it, and like I like to whoever is watching this, I have no prior information about what we are going to talk about, so it's a complete surprise to me. I just know that it's going to be about self-development, hence I said yes, but I have no other information, so I just hope to be useful, let's say, so let's say it this way.
I'm sure it's going to be useful. That's one thing. And the second thing, like, let's go with the flow. It's going to be fun. So, let's start with few words about yourself. Like, just tell us who you are
Right.
to whoever is watching.
Exactly, and who is watching? That's the first question, right? So, like when I meet new people, I always like first like give like I'm the last one to speak, right? So I always ask, well, who are you, and what's your emergency? And then given that, I pitch based on that. So I could say literally like that's the issue. Like once you get on your own like individual path and develop in like your own individual direction, it's increasingly hard to explain what you do. So like I started as like just a student of natural sciences 20 years back in Warsaw. I was studying psychology, physics, and mathematics at the University of Warsaw. These were like pure disciplines, right? Like pure natural sciences, and it's like easy to explain because it's just something, it's almost like school subjects. So like everyone has like some notion of what physics means, what mathematics is. And then I went for a PhD in neuroscience in the Netherlands. So I think we still like neuroscience is like a pop science right now, right? Everyone is an expert in neuroscience. So I think we all have some imagination of what it means. Although in fact, I can tell you a spoiler, like it's much more boring in daily life than you would think. Uh, and it's just grinding next to your laptop and just tweaking some equations and like doing like all kind of boring stuff. So not as much like, as you can see in like Hollywood movies, and like neuroscience can be really really a grind. Anyways, but then there's like over 100,000 active neuroscientists in the world, like working full time. So there's this world organization, Society for Neuroscience, and I think it has over 100,000 like unique members, and they meet once a year in somewhere in the US at the Society for Neuroscience annual conference, and it's like 30,000 people in one place. So it's literally a city that everybody is a neuroscientist. It's
Wow.
huge. Yeah, and so basically, it's like you walk like these convention centers is like 2 kilometers. Like you walk straight 2 kilometers, like neuroscientists only
Wow.
in the corridor. So it's huge. But anyway, so it's like still a big crowd. But then after that, I was thinking for like about becoming a founder that was doing like first something neurotech related. And this is a crowd of at least 1,000 people, I would say. Like neurotech is really growing right now, and so there are still like thousands of people who you could actually classify as founders in neurotech. But then I kind of soft pivoted a few times because I figured that like this traditional founder's path with like having a founded startup is not necessarily my optimal pathway, and I'm more of a like wildcat and more of a bootstrapper type. And I went my individual way, and I went more into education, and I'm more of an like I can see myself more of as an educator, creator, author, but I also builder. Like I also build our own like digital products, our own aptitude tests. So basically, now I focus on creating a career incubator online for knowledge workers who are like just repitching themselves in the job market, so changing career paths. So it's basically a place for ambitious people to get like deep into who they really are as professionals and where their competitive advantages in the job market, and getting all the tools necessary to get to where they want to be next. So it's a like chess 5D. It's a very like hard strategic problem that I'm tackling, but I don't go the traditional founders way. So I didn't go like I didn't pitch to investors. I didn't go fund it. If I didn't go for funding. Instead, I'm building completely bootstrapped. And I also like we actually met at the pitch night. So like also sometimes I actually organize pitch nights, but I always tell investors like feel free invest in any startup but mine. Like I'm fine. I know this is not my way of building things, but there is no better or worse way. I just chose the way that I felt was right for me. So I basically I consider myself at this moment, I consider myself a career strategist, which is kind of related to business strategists too, because I feel that careers are businesses in a limit of less just one person in the company right now. That I feel like we all are our own like little like one person businesses right now. We have to do our own PR, we have to do our own sales, our own strategy, operations, everything. So it's just like a gig economy is like becoming real, and we are like, even if we are full-time employed, we still have to take care of our personal brand within and outside the organization to make sure that we are safe no matter what scenario pans out in the job market. So it's really becoming I think there are many parallels between career development and business development right now. So, and I also advise startups. So I think that there's very many similarities. So overall, I feel I'm a strategist, and indeed it's really hard to explain because it's not a type of a profession that you can find in like official like statistics. Like there is no profession like this. And I still like I spent almost a decade in neuroscience, so I feel it still affects my way of thinking in many ways, and my way of teaching as well. So it's like in some ways I still use this knowledge I gained. So it's also like a combination of a few disciplines in one. So it's my unique angle of looking at things. And I don't really see any other person out there who would be a career strategist with a neuroscientific background. And so it's just either just a few people or just me. So it's really that's why it's so hard to explain, because like the more you progress and the more you figure out what your competitive advantage is, and you just bet on your strengths and combine all your like hobbies and passions into one and try to find your competitive edge, the more unique it becomes. So like you start from like something really like common, so like studies that are typically like easy to classify in some way, like they have labels, right? You go for certain studies in certain discipline, it always has a label to it. And then once you become your own thing, and you redesign yourself and you soft pivot many times in your career, and you combine all your strengths into one package, then it becomes like uniquely you. So it's really hard to explain sometimes. And yeah, so I, if you ask me like what I can help people with, like I usually just throw that question back at them. I'm like, what's your problem? What's your issue? And how, like, knowing what the issue is, I can probably help you, or at least I can tell you who can help you.
But you've mentioned two things which I mean, actually three things which I would really don't like to, follow up on. So you've mentioned the pivots, the three pivots that you went through, and at the same time, what I feel like you are describing when you're saying that every one of us got their edge, their niche.
Mm-hmm.
I like to think about it as our authentic self. That's this one thing that we are really good at, and we just love it. Like it just makes us spark. And it's based on my experience, but you mentioned the three pivots. So I kind of, was it that every single pivot was bringing you closer and closer to what really makes your heart grow?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, that's a good way of saying this. And also, yes, it's just reiterating, right? It's almost like denoising a picture, right? It's like in turn. Yeah, absolutely. And also, I think what I'm also like, that's my crusade is to like bring better education, because I think also people often stray in the job market because they just don't know enough. Like, for instance, if I knew about like what the reality of studying physics is, I would probably not study physics in the first place, because I thought, like in high school, I used to read books from Roger Penrose and all these like books about like Michio Kaku, right? These like higher dimensions and black holes, and I was like, wow, this is like how the world might be structured. This is fascinating. Let's go study physics. And then I came to study, and it was like, this is the divergence. This is tensor. Like this is the differential of level 2, level like order 2, order 3, and then now let's compute this equation. And then it was like equations. I was like, when are we going to talk about the world, like how the world was created? And nothing like it for 5 years. It was just equations and more equations, just like day in day out equations. And then you go home and then you have more equations to solve as a homework, right? So I was like I was doing this. I treated it almost like an army service, that okay, this is just to build my character, it's like nothing else. Like I will learn nothing that would be potentially useful for me like long term. It's just to kind of survive and make sure that I can survive anything, because if I can survive this, then I can survive pretty much anything. So the thing is, also I think I was just slower at discovering my true self through me than I would probably be if I had a better know-how about, okay, what's the reality, right? Like what's the day in life of a student of physics? And it actually went similar with neuroscience and like doing a PhD, because I felt I had a different imagination of what it means, and I thought it's just about discoveries and doing research and like asking questions and then finding answers to those questions. And in some ways it is, but you have to also be very good at strategic publication game. And this is something that I learned the hard way. And I think if I got disillusioned like early, then I could just take a conscious decision. Okay, this is a game you're going to play for the rest of your life. So are you going to are you in or are you out, right? So I would probably, perhaps, I'm not sure what I would say to that. And if I would eventually decide to do a PhD anyway, but at least I would be more close to the truth, like the real the reality of things, right? So this is something again, I had this like common picture of what academia is, like that most of the society has, versus like the truth is different, right? So it's basically, yeah, so like now I feel I'm more agile with my like career development just because I have my own company. I can define my own projects. I can decide who to work with. And if we just don't vibe well, or I have a different philosophy from someone else, or something just doesn't work the way it was expected, then I can just shake hands with that person and say goodbye politely and just start another project with somebody else. It's just fine. So it's like, um, now, like that's also one of the good reasons to become independent, because you have that more like agility. So if things go like against your beliefs, so you're like, oh, this is not what I believed it would be like, you can actually take a decision like by yourself right here, right now. Okay, I'm changing the course.
Yeah.
And you don't have to wait until your PhD defense, or until somebody allows you to do it, or until, I don't know, end of your project. You're just basically in charge of how you're spending your time. So I feel now the development is quicker, like personal development, just because you're like, I'm more agile. So that's one of the pros of being a founder, yes.
When did you learn that? Like, when was this moment which like dawned on you that I can make decisions for myself and I'm not afraid of the repercussions of the decisions? Because every decision, as you mentioned, of moving from academia or moving to business, like those are difficult decisions, like really stressful, but it something needs to happen inside of you to be able
Yeah.
to do them. And like, which was your moment? Like,
Right. Yeah, it's actually, I think to some extent it's kind of, I think it's inborn that, because it's like, that's also what I'm actually like that's also what I research in my company, actually. So to what extent is your, like, you have a calling and you have to discover it, and to what extent is it actually something that you build like by yourself, right? So uh one thing is, I think I always, like, when I look back to my even childhood times, I always had there were symptoms that I would be a founder. I just ignored them. Just nobody in my family was a founder ever. So I could, like, nobody told me, hey, you're entrepreneurial. Nobody, because like there was just no good example in my environment. But I remember, even as a like 7 or 8 year old, I used to, like, on the way to school, I used to like step at the local store and get candies, per pound, right? Like, so I was just buying like a bag of candies, and then I was basically selling them like at double price, like per piece, at school, to all the like fat kids. I knew that if I see a fat kid, it would buy, like
I
they
love
would
it.
buy like right
I
away.
love it.
So
This
like
is
they would not
genius.
say no. So I could charge 2x or 3x, they would still buy it. So like I had my like side gig, like, that my parents didn't know about. And so I was already like quite, I would say, both entrepreneurial and quite cynical at that age. And it was obvious for me. I didn't even think, oh, this is something like that I'm not supposed to do. I was like, yeah, these kids, they are so greedy with candies, and just make money on them. I said, so it was, but that kind of, I think in the process of uh, education, it got kind of wiped out, like from my conscious mind, that I'm entrepreneurial. Because, like, at school, they always try to, like, that we are taught, like, we basically, our education system is incorporated from Prussia, right? From Germany, from 19th century. The way, like, in industrial revolution, the way they used to teach children to be obedient, so that they basically deliberately put so much material in the school, um, like the textbooks, so that you have like no time for independent thinking. You just have to study the whole day and pass exams, like studying things you will never ever need, just to be obedient. So like, And this is how Polish system was. It probably still is at this stage. And so, like, I was just like never even told that, you know, there is a decent way of living life as an entrepreneur. Like, nobody ever told me that for another like 20 years, right? So, and during my PhD, I had a like really hard life with my supervisor. We clashed a lot. That really wasted my like it was really heavy on my like mental health. I even actually I had a sick leave for a few months at some point, which I still spent on working because I was so determined to finish, but it was not very healthy. And at that point I was like, I just don't want to be under anybody's influence ever again, because I can see how it destroys my mental capacity, how it destroys me as a person. Like I don't want to risk any other like any more that I could have a boss that I don't vibe well with. You know, I just don't. It's too much risk to take, and you know, we all have our own resilience to risk and to stress, and it's very like personal. Some people actually like they are very risk averse in terms of they really like what they fear the most is empty fridge. That's why they would never ever go entrepreneurial way, and they would rather have a bad job with a bad boss than like no stable employment. But for me, I was like more fine with empty fridge than with someone who can push and pull me around. And like that was so much of a like a this vision of having another boss who can just you know mob me at work.
Yeah.
It was just too scary to ever try again. I was like, I would rather walk around hungry, grind hard for years, and just keep on pivoting as long as it takes to make it, because I don't see myself like risking again. This is just too much of stress for me. And you know, like people, there are different ways of like connecting with people professionally. So this like most common way is like employer-employee type of relation. And this is most comfortable for most people. Most people want to have hierarchy and they want to have structure. They're like, okay, you pay me, you tell me what to do, I just do it, fine, right? But this is not my way of thinking. I prefer these like provider-client relations. And this makes me feel like, okay, well, the worst that can ever happen is if my client is not happy with the service, I can just tell them, okay, I don't get paid then. Fine, you have it for free if you're not happy, right? So for me, this is like very low stress situation. Like for me, like being an independent provider is actually much less of a stressful setting than having a boss. So even though the income is not guaranteed, it's still actually much more like aligned with my nervous system. So yeah, so I just basically it's very stressful for me to be dependent on someone. So it's really and somebody's like also subjective opinion, right? So it's really yeah, so I basically adopted this way that okay, I know where my weaknesses are, and my weakness is that I don't want to be dependent. That's also why I went bootstrapped. Like I didn't want to have dependency from investors, and that makes your runway like longer. You have to like you grow slower, you build slower, but I felt it's fine. It's still a price worth paying, just because for me at this moment what is most important for my growth personally is to be independent. And it doesn't mean also when you bootstrap, it doesn't mean that you are alone. That's also a misconception, because like if you listen to advice, there will be so many nice people on your way who want to mentor you, who want to help you. So it's not that I never ever felt lonely, like never, not for one day. Like there are always like way more than enough people who track what you're doing, who keep fingers crossed for you, who want to advise you. So you don't have to have like a formal structure around it and agreements signed to to get some really good know-how. So it's really yeah. So I never really felt like I was lacking either know-how or resources or anything. Like my only like enemy on my way to success was me for this whole time. So it was a really good decision. Like if I was more disciplined, less dopamine of a dopamine addict, I would be already like much farther now, but it's fine. I mean, I'm just far from perfect, but still, I think that like outer world like is not like making it any harder for me right now. I really like feel like this setting is really like optimal for me. So it's again like it's a self-knowledge, right? That you have to work on, and also be self-aware, and also be perfectly aware of your weaknesses also. Like for me, for instance, like just one example, like I'm very bad with sales, and the reason is because I don't really care about money the conventional way. Like that's just numbers for me. I don't really have that good sense of, it's just because I already have everything I need. So I'm like, I never really thought like there's like a particular level I want to get to, like financially. Like that was never my like goal. So like I don't really like, I'm a minimalist, so I don't, so it doesn't really motivate me all that much to negotiate prices, negotiate deals. But at some point I realized that my mom, like she's really like willing to help me with the company, and she likes doing accountancy, and that she's really excited when she can write an invoice for like some like formidable like amount. So I was like, yeah, if she's so happy just writing an invoice, I can just sell something, right? Because like she's excited every time. Even today, actually, I gave her some like order for like $5,000, and she was like, oh, $5,000, yeah. Just came. So just like please send me an invoice, and she was so happy to do it. So I know my weaknesses, so I basically, instead of like trying to push myself to start selling, I just found myself a structure in which I get motivated by something else, right?
Mm.
So you have to actually also be like brutally honest. I suck at this. I suck at like being like, money is not motivating to me. So and I really cannot get over it. So I just found another way of making it work. Um, yeah, instead of trying to push myself, to change.
Yeah. But like everything you're saying is like, I'm just nodding. Yes, 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 yes. Because I mean, w- we as humans, like as in a society, we are never taught how to be ourselves. We are being taught how to be a good um, uh, worker, how to go to the factory and do the job, because that's the easiest way to keep us in check. Because
Yeah,
it's just how it, this is how society works. That's why we've got the hierarchy, because what's the worst thing that can happen for the hierarchy is someone who actually wants to have agency, who realizes that we are responsible for ourselves and is courageous enough to take full responsibility for ourselves. Because the only person who's responsible for what's happening to me is myself. But it's
yeah,
just so much easier to give it away to someone else and then blame the system, blame whoever else there is just not be able to take care of ourselves. And just it's just so beautiful, and to hear you talk about it, and how your journey led you to this point. And so based on your research, which you've mentioned, so how does it work? So is it inborn, or is this resilience something that we are developing?
yeah. So actually, I think it's like both nature and nurture to some extent. But the nature is still there, and I think so. That's also something that is good to measure some ways. Like there are many good tools to measure this. We built our own in-house tools as well to be able to like to tell like people better like where their competitive advantage in the job market is, and how to what extent they are entrepreneurial or corporate, or perhaps material for freelancers or researchers or whatever else. But I think it's but like people who do these tests, they also like see that when their like experience change, then after like 2-3 years they can take the same test and have different results just because they just adapt, right? So it's always a combination, I think, of nature and nurture. But I think like I always try to optimize to have as few constraints as possible, and just adapt, like be adaptable, and try not to push myself like to fit in any box. But that's, again, who knows, maybe this is just my thing, right? Like maybe I'm just not, but indeed, actually, one, as you said before, I fully agree that we actually have like a tendency to get under somebody else's shoe, right? Because, and the reason is because human brain burns a lot of energy from decision making. Like decision making, even if the simplest decision making, you go to a store, you try to like pick, let's say you have an apple and an orange, and just the simplest thing, right? Like, or you have two apples, which one, it's just, and the brain, like even the simplest decision like this, the almost whole brain gets activated. Like pretty much everything lights up, from like brainstem to like cortical networks. Everything basically starts working, trying to just gauge the options and choose the best one. So regardless if it's like a very important decision or like not important decision, like decision making is just very energy costly, and we just don't like decision making, like by design. So that's, I think, one of the reasons why most people, so decision making is stressful also. It's energy consuming and it's stressful. So that's also why most people, they just prefer to give away control. Okay, just tell me what to do, I just do it, and just give away. So become like start working on autopilot. But I think this is also like short-term thinking, because it's not only, okay, it's not about like short-term safety. Okay, you can have a short-term safety from employment, but if you're not a good decision maker in the long run, like I think the job market is changing so quickly, you might actually get in trouble within the next 5 to 10 years, right? So I think like pushing yourself out of your comfort zone and pushing yourself to make decisions daily, either as an entrepreneur or in any other circumstance where you have to actually like take actions and take responsibility for those actions, is actually investing in yourself long term. Because if you get convenient and if you just forget how to make decisions, you I think at some point get really marginalized in a job market. I think decision making in itself, regardless what you do, what's your profession, in itself is a value. So like pushing yourself to do it in one way or another, regardless of, again, your market sector, your work environment, your profession, it's in itself, like taking that pain of decision making is in itself a value.
Again, I cannot agree more. And we tend to, from education, work, whatever we're doing, then to our cultural behaviors. The way that the females should be married and have children. This is also something that was almost like imposed on females, so they don't need to make decisions, which I feel like today we are slowly starting to, everyone, both males and females, starting to have more courage to make decisions for themselves. And it's a beautiful, from one perspective, it's a beautiful process, but at the same time, it is a little bit scary for majority of human beings, like to actually be able to make those decisions for themselves, because it's I think that in the previous system, especially for example in the US, it was also almost like a given. You're gonna go to university, you're gonna make good money, you're gonna be able to afford your house, your car, children going to a private school, and you're gonna be fine. And nowadays, the future is not certain, as everything is changing so quickly, and we need to learn to make decisions. Beautiful.
Yeah, and also I think now, like that's also like, since we have to make bets for the future and we don't really know how it's going to look in 20 years, I think skills and personal network of contacts are equally important. It's almost like the uh, generation of our parents, they used to like climb one ladder, right? Like at work, like from one position to another, just trying to get like as high as possible in the social, like social circles.
Yeah.
At this moment, I feel like we are climbing like two ladders at the same time. So you have to upskill. That opens your door to more like distinguished network of people who make you upskill further, so that you can open the next door, talk to the like more excellent people, and then it's just like walking on like two ladders at a time.
Yeah.
And I think like you have to like remember about like to really develop yourself, you have to remember about both.
Yeah.
So like upskilling without networking or networking without upskilling is pointless. You have to have a really good balance between the two. So that's one. And second, like relating to the point about social like expectations. Yeah, actually, you know, in my case, I'm Polish, but I left Poland right after my undergrad. And I'm like, so I've been formally like abroad for like 14 years now. And like, I think also I was to some extent affected by the Dutch culture, which is much more liberal. So, and it's not even about acceptance. It's just or tolerance. It's more like they're just indifferent. It's not even that they accept you as you are. It's more that they don't care.
Yeah.
They just don't care who lives next door. So it's like whoever you are, just it's fine. So let it be, right? And so I was like, I was never feeling judged for whatever like decisions I make, whether it's good or bad. Well, I'm not sure. Like indifference is just it's a two-sided stick.
Yeah.
But I agree. I mean, now I think yeah. So like also this is something I like about the Dutch society, that they don't have one way of looking at life. So they don't have this like one like pattern, like one style in which you have to live life and then die, you know, so that
Yeah.
as you said, this like social norm that okay, you're supposed to finish school, then start a family, then do this, do that, take a mortgage, that they don't have like just one way of doing things. There are many people who consciously choose to live like unorthodox lifestyles, and that's fine. And I spend a lot of time in San Francisco right now, which is like also like utterly unorthodox. So whatever way of life you choose, like it's for like it's normal in San Francisco.
Yeah.
You will not surprise anybody just doing literally anything with your life. No one cares.
Yeah.
So I think because of my choices and where I spend so much time over past decade, I think I don't really feel all that much pressure because yeah, just because of the places I visited. Um, and also my own family is quite liberal. They never really pushed, but I see it. I think both women and men to some extent still feel the pressure, right, of like living life the way everybody else around lives their life. So if you feel like you're in minority, you always question yourself, right? Whatever that is, like whatever habit you have, if it's just, you know, if you're in minority, people could just point a finger and say, hey, why are you doing this way? Regardless if it's family or religion or anything like that. It's just you will always be questioned if you're in minority. And I don't know how to solve this problem. Uh, you know, what like what typically helps me if I feel any pressure ever, which I normally don't, then I usually like what helps me is like increase my contact with spirituality. Like I don't want to talk about religion here, but like I have some religious beliefs, and the more I like spend time like on my spirituality, the less influenced I feel by other people's expectations. So if I can have any advice, then just, you know, if you want to get less affected and just more free from whatever anybody thinks about you and what you should do with your life, I would just look up above or inside, or like whatever you believe in. Could be just karma, could be just, you know, even if you're like non-believer, could be your other form of spirituality, maybe your lifestyle, yoga, like meditation, whatever it is, like the more time you spend on this, the more indifferent I think you become to whoever thinks whatever about you.
I cannot agree more. Like, I left Poland right after high school, and I really believe that living in different countries and traveling the world, it actually helped me understand who I really am. And when you mention the paradigm of balancing, opening new doors, and networking and upscaling, and I don't know how I would manage in this world if I wouldn't know what is that I actually want. Because if I wouldn't have this very strongly rooted self-awareness and self-trust, this world would just destroy me, because I would try to catch whatever flashy thing I see, when, as you beautifully said, I really believe it goes back to our spirituality and our connection with, however we want to call it, if it's universe, God, or ourselves. But in this crazy world, it's a really good anchor for us to believe in something.
Yeah, it could be even like just Mother Nature, right? Just going out to the woods and just where like greenery, and then just being connected with nature where you're like a part of it. Like the same like worthy as anybody else, regardless what you do, with your life, right? We're all equal to Mother Nature. So it's just I think it's really like refreshing in that sense. But actually I have a question for you as well. So like when you think about the TrueMe and the concept of self-knowledge. So do you try to do you typically name your values, or like try to like kind of grasp who you really are by words? I'm asking because I sometimes feel like I cannot really name certain concepts because I feel there's only some granularity to language,
Yeah.
and there are certain like concepts that just are not named, and I sometimes have hard times to really explain even to myself who I am. But when I get stimuli from the outer world, I know if it's me or not me, if I should say yes or no to something. But at the same time, I don't really have like a written like pitch of who I really am. It's like I cannot really explain that in words. Can you describe yourself like fully in words?
Oh my God, I love this question. um, I think about it as an onion. So after years and years of meditation and spiritual work, I went through the phase when it was easier to describe what I'm not. And it's also in Advaita Vedanta narrative, is like what you are not. Like, you're not your mind, you are not your thoughts. And
Yeah.
I've got those glimpses sometimes. Is that I can feel my presence to such extent that what I'm seeing in front of my eyes is almost like a movie. And I'm totally like in meditative state, not under influence of anything. But I have this deep knowing and feeling that what I'm seeing with my eyes is doesn't exist.
Oh, do you feel
It,
like you're in simulation?
it's like I I was having this moment when I was sitting in London in park, and I was looking at the London city, and at this moment I knew that at the same it could be a skyline in New York or San Francisco or Warsaw. It's like it doesn't matter, because I could feel like I can just change the screen, and I
Hmm.
was just present. But I was sitting on the grass, deeply rooted in Mother Nature, so that might be the case. But
Hmm.
it it's almost
Yeah,
like I'm everything, like I'm everything, but at the same time, I am nothing.
yeah. Well, I think I know what you mean. Like I have those like moments of like when like you start, like, it's almost like you have those moments of, like, there's a snapshot, and then you kind of, it's like just self-actualization moment, right? That you start analyzing yourself in the moment, and just, yeah, it happens once in a while, especially when you have a beautiful view, right? Like very comfortable conditions, you're like, oh, this is too good to be real, something like that. And so, yeah, I have those sometimes. But it's also like, what is actually, I think something I'd like to raise is that, like, I spent almost a decade in neuroscience, and like they kind of teach you the axiom that we are our brain, right? That is kind of a synonym, right? So
Yeah.
your brain, you,
Yeah.
like, that's basically, but actually it's like, to reach your goals, it's actually better to, like, create a different representation in which, like, you are something else than your brain. So your brain is just a tool.
Yeah.
And then your brain is a tool, and like there's another layer under that tool that is your body, right? Your body is just executive to your brain, and your brain is executive to you. And it's a machine to pursue your goals. And it's actually much more efficient representation of who you are when it comes to actually pursuing your actions, because your brain actually is very, like, it's as a, like, it was designed in a way to be imperfect machine that is really scary of new things, lazy, right? Dopamine addict,
Yeah.
like, naturally, just very so natural addicts to a lot of different molecules, right?
Yeah.
And it's really, and it will try to convince you to stop taking any action other than, like, sleeping, eating, proliferating, right? Like, it's just basically designed this way. So actually, to get somewhere, it's actually better to think about your, like, long-term goals, and then kind of treat your brain as like a kind of horse you have to ride, right? And you have to push and pull it, and just tell it, like, to stop yelling when it just, complains, oh, I'm tired, like, let's watch Netflix now, and just, I'm scared of this, like, just whatever else. And it will be just, completely like, it will be distractible and imperfect tool that tries to kind of pull you back to actually not do anything. And so you have to kind of, that you are not your brain. Like, I mean, this is the thing, this is a representation that works best, but it's hard for me to explain. I don't know if I explained myself well, but the thing is, once you accept that you are your brain and that's it, then you become like everybody else, in the sense that your agency goes to zero, right? Because your brain, like, it's hardwired in a way that it's you're supposed to just eat, sleep, and proliferate, and that's it, right? So, like, if you let your brain decide for you what to do next, that's exactly what you will choose, right? So you have to, like, be something more than your brain. Just treat it like a tool, and just, like, put the pedal on the, put the foot on the gas pedal, no matter what, no matter that your brain squeaks and yells and cries, and just go forward.
Yeah.
So that's actually, I think I somewhat developed this attitude in India. Like, I was in India a few months back, just recently, and it works for me. And then every time I feel like, oh, I don't want to do this is too hard, this is inconvenient, then I just basically, I think to myself, stop yelling, right? Like, so basically, I then I accept that my brain is just squeaking again, but I have to just ignore it and proceed. And that's actually really convenient. I mean, it's a really good way to get over, like, go down your to-do list and have things done.
So yes, yes, and yes. And I'm taking it to the next level, which is mind and heart coherence. So we are what we think, period. And in the spiritual perspective, the purpose of the brain is just to keep the soul in the body. So that's why the brain is just going to make sure that you are safe. You're not going to go out of your comfort zone, because that's the best way to protect the body. So the soul is
Yeah.
going to stay, and the soul is going to be able to experience. But then there's this moment when we're realizing that I am what I think. So if I'm going to tell myself I'm going to go running, even if I don't want to go running, no, I'm just going to do it. And then the next level is to also tell our brain we're going running, but not from this place of army like discipline, but with self-acceptance and love. Like, I don't want to go running, but I'm gonna go running because I know it's good for myself. So I do believe that each one of us got their magical potential. This is this magical sparkle of universe, that every single one of us are different, but like our bodies work in the same way, but every single person is different, and it's just, that's the beauty of the world. And then it's up to us to express our essence, our potential in the world. And I believe that the only way to do it is when we've got the mind under control and we lead from the heart.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. That's beautiful said. Beautiful said. And um, yeah, I see. That's a really cute way of thinking about it. And yeah, let's go. Yeah, like we should go running, right? Like me and my yeah, yeah, like a dog, right? Like just let's go. Yeah, let's like get you to a jogging. Yeah, that's a good way of putting this. Yeah, although yeah, I'm very bad with sports though. I have to admit, when it's sports, I don't take my brain on a walk or anything. Like maybe I should.
It's good for the
Yeah,
brain.
yeah, I know. Like that's what they say. Uh, tomorrow. No, it's just it's a yeah. But it's also I know that it took me a while also to like that. Like with sports, I just like it took me a while also to accept that this is also not me. I'm not a like a athlete type, and that's fine. And I can be fit without really doing any like specific like hardcore sports. And I know like when I was in in as an undergrad, I used to go bouldering with friends, even though I hated bouldering just because people were bouldering, so I wanted to be with them. And then in grad school, like lots of people were running, like, and I used to go for like running, like just, this team running sports. And I hated it just because I wanted to be in a group. And now I'm like, this is so much not you. It's just like, it's just such a couch potato, like internationally, I would say internationally acclaimed
God,
potato,
potato.
cruising couches in many countries on a regular basis. Like, what's wrong with that? And I really feel fit anyway. So like, I'm like, well, I'm just, that's what, like, you were born with certain set of cards, and I don't have a athlete card on my hand, so that's okay. That's okay. It took me a while though. Yeah. But I agree. I mean, jogging perfectly, like, probably good for you. It's just like, I will just skip, but
That's there. I love it. Okay, a very, very last question to close this marvelous conversation, which I feel could be going for hours. One thing which you would say to your younger self.
like 10 years younger, let's say.
Yes,
Buy
perfect.
Bitcoin.
So you don't go for younger, 10 years, that's
Yeah,
perfect.
that's, I guess that's perfectly reasonable time to buy Bitcoin. Yeah, like, buy Bitcoin.
Do it now. Oh,
Yeah.
I love it. Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Natalia. It was like a real, real honor and pleasure.
Yeah, thank you
And
so much for having me. Yeah, it was fun. It was fun. Yeah, that's like nice space to think about yourself in, like, in this whole like fast world. Like, just we have so little time
mm,
for self-actualization. I was just thinking about it today, like earlier, before you contacted me. Yeah, I had this thought. Actually, I was thinking about my perfect like schedule as a bootstrapper. I have to be really disciplined, right? So because I have to kind of manage all my like business contacts and also like deep work. And I was thinking like that in my case, like this like 3-phase cycle is actually best, where I have like 1 to 2 weeks of like sprint through events, like people only, right? So events, meetings, sales, like in-person sales, like go go go, as many conferences, as many meetups, as many shake hands as possible. And then about like 1 to 2 weeks of decompression, when I kind of work on those contacts, so have a follow-up calls, put them in the CRM, right? And then the rest, like come back to homeostasis, make sure that my diet goes back to normal and like everything goes back to normal. And then about like 4 ± 2 weeks of like deep work, where I just actually do the actual work, right? So, but that it's actually really important to have that decompression period before, like between like this people time and deep work time, still have that like buffer when I kind of make sense of everything that happened in that busy period when I was meeting people. Like make sure that I also do a self-actualization, think about how my values change, how my opportunities change. Maybe I resign from some projects because they don't make any sense anymore, or I have a better idea to put in place of that project. And it's basically that self-actualization time and buffer is really important before you go down to deep work. And I think I used to have like make this mistake before, that I tried to go straight from networking straight to deep work and back without that buffer, without the decompression period. And now I think this is the crucial period, and you have to fully focus on yourself at that moment. And so like I exactly thought about it today when you first called me. So it's
Yeah.
so important what you do, because without good contact with and deep contact with yourself, like you will get nowhere. You will just get burnt out like in no time.
And you know, the narrative which we are using now, it's people are lonely because everyone is lonely. But then the quality of your relationship with others is exactly, it's just a mirror to your relationship with yourself. So
Oh, well,
it,
I would even say more, that your relationship with yourself is the upper limit of what you can reach with other people.
yes, beautifully said.
This is the ceiling, right?
Yeah.
So if you don't have a good relation with yourself, no other relation can even get good in the first place.
Yeah. So that's why the first thing is really, it starts from being kind to yourself. That's it. Just be kind, because I was listening to, I love the Know Thyself podcast, like one of my favorites. And recently I was listening to the last episode. I was like, it's not about the action, but it's about the intention. And you've got two options. Your intention is gonna be love or fear. And then when I'm running at the events and I'm trying to do everything at once, I'm not doing it from love. I'm doing it from fear that I'm gonna miss something. But if I'm gonna step down and I'm gonna like, I trust whatever it is, if it's universe, myself, like my intuition is gonna guide me. I know that I'm gonna meet those right people in those 1 or 2 events, but I'm gonna be my best self during this event, not killing myself, stressed, worried, because there's something that I'm gonna miss. Like everything that is supposed to come to you is gonna come to you. And I think it's, when you mentioned those sequences, I think it's especially important for female founders that we've got hormonal cycles. We are not like guys who've got 24 hormonal cycles. We need this time of more slow rewind, because like this is not our role to be constantly 24/7 activated and pumped. We, exactly as you beautifully said, we need this time to recharge and reflect on what is happening. Like, did my values change? Did my surrounding change? It's like, how did what just happened impacted me? So yeah, thank you, thank you, thank
Yeah,
you, thank you.
yeah. You also have to give yourself credit, right? Like because again, like if you don't love yourself, like it's just like this is the like something that I think we have to learn like for a lifetime, right? To love ourselves, like because it's like a cliche phrase that is often overused. But I think like very few people really deeply love themselves that I know about. Like that, I can see how people harm themselves, how they basically have this insecurities that then turn into ego and ego trips, and like I can see where it comes from. And there's just so few people I know from daily life that have like that peace of mind because they basically are self-confident, and there's like a real self-confidence. And that's also, yeah, but this is like a homework we all have to do for ourselves, right? Nobody can go it for you.
Amen.
Yeah.
Amen. Thank you so
Yeah.
much. My little kitten decided that she's done and she wants to go and eat something, right?
Yeah,
So
that's
thank
sweet.
you. Thank you so much. I mean, thank you, thank you, and thank you.
Sure.
And to the next one,
Yeah.
whenever it will
Sure.
be.
Best of luck with TrueMe, and you know that I keep fingers crossed, and seriously, like, I hope you get very far with this, and get investors, and get things rolling very soon. So we are in touch, and if I can help you in any way,
Thank you so,
anytime.
and likewise, and likewise. Thank you. See
Take
you.
care.
Bye.
Have a great evening. Bye bye.